Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Paul Chorley with us today. He's the CEO at AutomatePro. He helps unlock the full potential of cloud platforms like ServiceNow with patented AI test automation and DevOps solution. He's in the UK, I'm in Mexico. Paul, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hi, Charles. Yeah, fantastic to be here. I am having the time of my life, I would say, Charles, running this business. I think as a founder, when you start a business, you have a dream of running and building a successful business and, helping build a great product, have a great team, global domination. And so I'm living the dream at the moment, Charles, to be honest. It's a great time. The business is doing great. I'm personally having a great time. And yeah, life is good at the moment, Charles, I would say.
Right. And 1 decade building that business, how has it grown since you started it in 2013?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, really, when I think back to, the early days. So it was just me and my business partner, two guys that, we'd both worked in IT for years and years, 25 years kind of career. But I think we always knew that we wanted to do something a bit more than just, work as freelance contractors or, work for large enterprises. So we started the business. We took a small sort of tatty office, borrowed furniture, whiteboards, and just had a dream really of building something. And yeah, it's just gone crazy. I mean, we've still got a photo of the kind of the whiteboard where we sketched out the idea, the original idea, and we've kept that photo, thankfully. And that's kind of the blueprint for the business. And it's just grown, every Christmas event we have, we always get the team together every Christmas. And the first year it was me and Wayne, and then the next year it was 3 people, and the next year it was 5, then it was 8 and 12. And now this year was, this summer event we're about to have is 55 people. And they're coming all across the globe from the US and UK and so on. So yeah, it's crazy. It's like, it's a proper business now rather than a startup.
Right. And what do you attribute that growth to? I mean, you've been at it for a decade now, but I think you're just at the right place at the right time right now. I think there's a strong need for what you build. So yeah, did you foresee that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it goes back to our experience in IT. So Wayne and I have felt the pain, and literally, the pain in the late nights of being up doing software development projects for, most of our careers, and not seeing our family, at weekends because we're in the office trying to do some testing or releasing or creating documentation. So, Wayne and I have lived this pain for many years. In fact, that's why we've both lost most of our hair, is because we, it's down to IT projects over the years. So I think we're solving a problem that we had experienced firsthand. And I think in any business, if you can do that, if you've got to love what you do as well, right? You got to be passionate about it, because there are going to be hard times. There are going to be dark days when things are not going well and you doubt yourself and you're running out of money and, everybody's questioning what you do. And you've got to really believe in what you're doing and the vision of what you've got. We held that very strongly, that kind of the concept, the vision, the picture of the future world, of how much better it could be. Wouldn't it be great if, rather than having to, screenshot and copy and paste things into a Word document, wouldn't it be great if you just pressed a button and it did that automatically? And wouldn't it be great if, you had to go into the office at the weekend to do manual software deployment, so that was all automated. So yeah, it's really, really holding that vision, being very true to that vision over a sustained long period of time, and very consistent against that. I think that's really, really helped.
Right. And what pain are you specifically solving? You mentioned like you were up late at the office. What was that pain specifically? Because yeah, I'm guessing like putting screenshots in a Word document, is it enough, right? Is it the fact that you were not seeing some security issues that might have happened? Like, what was that burning pain?
Yeah, exactly that. It's everything. I mean, I think we've all been there where I always called it so my example was the Monday morning phone call that you don't want from the CIO or the CTO or the CEO, right? So you've done a software deployment at the weekend and, you think it's gone okay because you followed all the right procedures and processes and things. And then you go in on the Monday morning, you're all relieved. Monday morning, there's a phone call and there's, the CIO's on the phone saying, what has happened? Our users are complaining or system is down and nobody wants that phone call, right? That's the meeting without coffee, I used to call it. They would get called into their office in the world when it was physical world. And so we're trying to avoid that risk, the pain, the manual repetitive work that is still involved with software development. I mean, my career goes right back to the sort of early 90s. And, largely speaking, we're still doing software development the same way as we were then. We're writing requirements, we're doing development, we're doing unit testing, we're doing functional testing, UAT, we're creating documentation and we're releasing that. And that process really hasn't changed. It's still highly labor intensive, very manual. Bits of the system aren't joined up together. So yeah, it's really removing that soul sapping tasks of software development that just can be automated.
And what are your pricing plans? What do people pay you to use you?
Yeah, so we've got an entire platform made up of around about 6 modules. And customers can then take those modules as they grow into the product. We do find most customers like to start with the automated testing part of what we do. That seems to be the biggest pain that people have. Most companies are still manually testing websites and systems. And that is just, it's hugely time consuming, manual, labor intensive and error prone. So typically customers start with testing and then maybe the documentation piece, and then maybe they'll move into the deployment, then maybe the monitor part. And customers can grow into the product as they go towards the kind of vision that they've got of continuous integration, continuous deployment, full DevOps. But that's a long journey to go on. You can't do that overnight. You have to take it sort of a step by step and go on that journey of transformation.
And what's the pricing?
Yeah, so the pricing is based on a per user license model. So depending on how many users you've got in your team. So if you had 10 people in your development team, for example, then they would each need a license for it. So again, you can start small and then gradually add users as you need them. So it's very much a SaaS based pricing model.
It's like $100 per user, and typically there's like 5 to 10 users per org, or
it's a bit more than that. So it's around about our current price. Depends on volume, of course, but as an indication, it would be around about $10,000 per user per year for the full suite. Everything, all the modules.
Interesting. And how do you actually get to these? CIOs, I would guess, would be your ICP. Who's your ICP first, and how do you market to them?
Yeah, so our ICP actually, we've one of the things that you do as a founder, I think, is you discover what your ICP is over a period of time, because you first of all think it's everybody, right? That's a very common thing. I think you think, oh, everybody's a customer, but actually your ideal customers for us are very large, complex enterprises. So we're talking sort of Fortune 500 companies, very large ServiceNow installations where they've got, they may even have multiple production instances and then sub-production instances supporting those. So that kind of complexity, often they've got a services partner involved as well, maybe a GSI that is providing, augmenting the team and providing testing and development services and so on. So those are very large, heavily regulated organizations, and the heavily regulated ones really need our solution because they need to be able to have the evidence to support the work that they've done. So it needs to be, they may be subject to ISO audits, or maybe SOC 2 regulations and things like that. So in fact, one of our banking customers once said to me that they have an auditor looking over their shoulder 80% of the time that they're working. So they need to have the evidence. They need to be able to press a button and the system shows what testing they've done, what's passed, what's failed, what's working, what's not, what's the risks, what work have they done, what have they not done. So that ability to create that documentation automatically rather than have to go into Excel or Word and manually create that stuff is huge for those customers.
Right. And what have been your greatest challenge in the 13 years that you've run that company? Like, when were fire burning and you didn't know that you were going to make it? What happened, and what did you do to survive?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's interesting when people ask that question, because there's always a moment that comes into your mind, isn't there? When you and for us, it was early days in the business. We had sort of 5 or 6 customers, and Wayne and I sat down and we were doing our sort of forecasting, budgeting for the coming months, and we realized that we were actually going to run out of money in 3 months' time. Which is a horrific thought for a founder, when you've put so much effort into building the product and getting customers and getting some revenue coming in, and then you realize you actually can't kind of sustain the business. So that was a bad day. You can imagine, Charles, that was a pretty horrific day. Wayne and I are very resourceful. We're very innovative. So we looked at all the different options of what we could do. We both, I think it speaks to both of our kind of characters that we both had very good personal credit ratings. So at that point, we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, look, we need a loan and we're going to have to guarantee that ourselves. So we took out a kind of bridging loan, if you like, which got us through that difficult phase, and then we got more customers and the revenue started to grow and so on. But yeah, those are chilling moments when you realize you're going to run out of money. It's a horrible situation to be in.
Yeah, and you said that life is good right now. Was it that with the 13 years that you ran this company, or was it challenging and then at some point around 2020 the tables turned?
Yeah, I would say more recently. I think in the last probably couple of years, it started to really accelerate the growth of the company. We're getting recognized in our market now. We've just come back from a very large ServiceNow event in Las Vegas, and we had 2 huge stands there, so we were sort of gold sponsor, and that gives you a lot of pride as a founder when you get to that point where you've got that kind of presence and visibility in the market. People coming to the stand knowing who you are and saying, "Oh yeah, we've heard of AutomatePro. We know who you are. We know what you do." So that fills you with a lot of pride for sure. But it's there's been some very difficult years, I would say, in the run up to that. But it all seems to be coming together very nicely now. It's a very enjoyable time running the business.
And nowadays with vibe coding and all of that, and as websites are getting more complex and AI is getting integrated, have you seen a larger incidence of potential vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I think so. And there's a risk with kind of app gen technologies where AI is actually generating solutions, applications, with very little or no human involvement, that there could be gaps in the security that are not found. That if you haven't specified that in your request to the AI engine that's created that application, then it may not have considered it. So I think some people are saying, well, there's no need for verification and testing in an AI world. I don't agree with that. I think in some ways it becomes more important because we want to make sure that those applications are secure, they're safe, they're scalable, they're resilient. And especially when you've got AI making decisions, making critical decisions as well. We need to be checking that those decisions are being made correctly, especially if they're affecting safety or security. So yeah, for me, it's even more important in an AI world. It's a really interesting time for the whole of software development, I would say. It's kind of shuffled the whole of the world around as we knew it, in software development.
And tell me about ServiceNow. Why you chose them as a partner, and also have you studied the company and Frank Slootman's book that was released, I believe, 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I would say I'm not a early adopter of ServiceNow, but a fairly early adopter. So around about 2010, they were about 4 billion of revenue then. So still a sizable organization, but and I actually was a customer of ServiceNow first, and that's what really introduced me to the platform. And having worked in IT for sort of 20 odd years, it was when I came across ServiceNow, it was like somebody had sort of switched a light on in a dark room and presented a solution that kind of no one else had conceived. And it, so for me, it solved so many problems. I could see exactly the problem it was solving. You've got this solution which was sort of 80% there out of the box, but then you could configure it, adapt it, add your own modules and applications onto this platform. But you had the security covered off, you had the UI covered off, you got this common database. It's all it's all kind of linked together. All the email and comms is all sorted out for you. So beautiful platform. I was hooked from the moment I saw it. I became a customer for a custom client I was working with, giving some consultancy, and I could sort of see how big this was going to be. And I dragged actually my business partner over to Las Vegas for their conference in May, the Knowledge Conference. I think it was Knowledge 2016. And I said to Wayne, you've got to come and look at this. This is going to be huge. And I'm kind of wishing I bought more shares at that point, Charles, because I think I could have done very nicely just on purchasing shares. But yeah, it's turned out to be right. I mean, they're absolutely smashing it, of course. Leading the field in, not just in IT service management, but now across the whole enterprise in every corner of the organization. And they've done a beautiful job with AI, I have to say, with layering on the agentic AI onto their technology platform as well. And we've harnessed that in our application now as well. We actually use the ServiceNow AI stack ourselves. So yeah, that's a really clever thing for them to do, to enable partners to use their AI stack as well in the platform.
What CEOs or founders are you studying right now?
I'm a great reader, but I've only become a great reader in recent times. So I do like to read the kind of autobiographies of CEOs, and kind of learn from what they've found out and what they've kind of the experience that they've been through. One of the books that really gave me a lot of kind of resilience, I guess, and reassurance was Michael Knight's book about Nike. And you could kind of assume Nike is this huge brand that has always been successful, and you read that book and you realize that he had some seriously dark days, some really dark days where things were going horrendously, and he had to jump on a flight to China or something to sort out one of his suppliers. So yeah, it makes you realize that very successful brands have some very dark days in their history.
Yeah, that Phil Knight story is quite amazing. Shoe Dog, the book is called. There's also like a nice
it's Phil Knight. Sorry. I said Michael Knight. Yeah. It's Phil Knight. Yeah, sorry. Not
yeah,
Knight.
I believe the movie is called Air, right? Like the Air movie on Prime or Netflix, wherever it's available. But I think that's a very good one. I'm gonna rewatch today since you just mentioned it. But the Jordan story yesterday. I read a lot through ChatGPT nowadays. I just prompted to write like a day in the life of, and yesterday I read Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan's the
Right.
GOAT, and that guy, very, very competitive, very obsessive, right? What traits do you think do you need to have as a founder, a CEO, to be very successful?
Yeah. So I think I've boiled this down because I'm asked that question a lot at the moment. It's kind of like, what's the secret to success? And I think there's kind of three main sort of elements to it, if you like. One is what we talked about before, about having the vision, the dream of where you want to get to. And you need that to be very kind of clear in your mind and very explicit, very kind of accurate. So not just a kind of vague concept. It needs to be really specific. Okay? So get your future state really well set in your mind and very, very firmly set. And make that ambitious, make it really ambitious, make it something that almost seems unachievable, if you like, that, would be, the absolute nirvana kind of dream of the future. So I think that's the first phase, is to get that really crystal clear in your mind, because that you're going to need all the way along the journey to keep coming back to. That's your guiding star. The second thing is then putting a strategy and a plan together such that it makes the achievement of that dream inevitable if you follow that strategy. So I did this with my kind of fitness transformation that I've gone on recently, Charles. I kind of decided that I was going to get the body of Daniel Craig, the James Bond actor. So that's my dream, and then I put in place the strategy and the plan to make that inevitable. So part of that was I needed to go to the gym every day. I need to dial in my nutrition so that I, had healthy meals throughout the day and got the right nutrients, the right macros. So the strategy. So if I executed that plan, then it makes the outcome inevitable. Then it's down to me to follow that plan, because then the third bit of it is you need to execute that plan with discipline, consistency, over a sustained period of time, and not get knocked off track by distractions, by getting demoralized, by, external factors. So being that consistency of doing the right things over and over again over a sustained period of time, such that you achieve the vision. So that's kind of what I realized I've done in the business, I've done personally, and I've observed. I'm a big fan of kind of looking at other successful people. There's a guy who's helped coach me through this, guy called Dan Martell. I don't know whether you've come across him, but he's been hugely influential, and I thank him in several areas, not only of the business but also my personal journey. Dan has transformed the way that I think about achieving success. And you look at what Dan has done in his success. He's followed that same thing. He had a big dream. He set his plan out and his strategy, and he executed very, very consistently against it. And he's now, a very successful guy. So yeah, that seems to be it for me.
I know Dan. He's Canadian. He's actually born where my dad is from, and that's always interesting to see his content on Instagram. His book as a nice reminder, right? Like for SaaS founders specifically. Last question for you: how are you integrating AI nowadays in multiple parts of your stack, whether it's the product, whether it's sales? How do you use AI also as a CEO?
Yeah, so we've recently put Copilot into our business. So we did it as a trial first, but it was a very short trial because we quickly realized that this was going to really help productivity internally within the business. So just simple things like recording meetings and summarizing notes and actions, and it's just simple stuff that going back to what I said at the beginning, the manual soul sapping tasks. Everybody hates minuting meetings and taking notes and actions. That's just something that AI is fantastic at. It still amazes me how accurately it records, or summarizes a meeting and captures the actions. It very rarely gets it wrong. So we've done that internally, and we're starting to roll that out to more and more parts of the business and get that being used to help support our customers potentially in the future and so on. So that's kind of on the internal side of things. In terms of the product, we we doubled down about 18 months ago. We saw what was happening with AI, and we're like, okay, we've got to go all in on this in terms of the product. But it's really interesting because we've really always been thinking about AI. Back as far as 2017, we started to play with some of the Amazon AWS functions that were available. They were very clunky. They were very, very difficult to use and very kind of technical, nothing like kind of Gen AI that you have these days. So we've always been kind of thinking about AI, but putting it into the product now, we just want to make everything to do with software development more, simpler, easier, more automated. So, why should we have to go through and, work out what tests we need to test a platform? We should just say to AI, analyze my ServiceNow instance and tell me what test coverage I need. What areas do I need to test? What's most important, or what areas, are most used by users. So yeah, really getting AI to do the heavy lifting work and the manual work that we hate doing as humans.
Love that. Paul, where can people find out more about you and your company?
Yep. So we're AutomatePro.com on the website. That's the easiest thing to do, AutomatePro.com. We're also a ServiceNow partner. So if you go on the ServiceNow store, then you can find our application on there as well. And I'm always open to LinkedIn messages. Paul Chorley, you'll find my profile pretty easy.
So that was Paul and Charles for another CEO Wisdom